Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the, what's the date today? 15th of October Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. Welcome elected members, members of the public, staff, and to our online viewers as well. Just a viewer, no, there's a few more than one or two. Just a reminder, if we can have our cell phones turned off and also turned onto silent, not vibrate as well, please, because these fabulous new microphones that we've got pick up everything. Afternoon tea break, if we're still going, will be 3 p.m. and for members of the public there is a tea trolley out in the foyer. So I've had apologies from Councillor Gallagher and apologies for lateness from Her Worship the Mayor and Councillor Wilson, so I'll move those. Seconded by... For lateness as well. Oh, his is for lateness as well, okay. For lateness, thank you. And moved by, seconded by Councillor Pascoe. All those in favour? Aye. Against? That's carried. Confirmation of the agenda. I will move that. Seconded by Councillor Forsyth. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Any declarations of interest? No, there being none, we'll move on to the public forum. We have one speaker in the public forum that I'd like to welcome down, Giles Brandt. Welcome, Giles. So you have 3 minutes. And elected members, we have received a document from Councillor King, and it's also, there is a copy on your desk that was handed out today. That's in relation to what's being talked about in the public forum. Now, because this item is first up on the agenda, if we can hold questions until that time, as this is just the public forum part of it. So we're in your hands.
Madam Chair, if this is an item from, to do with an item from Councillor King, should he be sitting in the meeting?
Thank you. I'll get the GM to answer that.
Yes, thank you. In all items such as these where conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest may arise, it's up to individual elected members to ensure they can bring an open mind to the matter being discussed. And in this particular instance, it's up to Councillor King to assure himself that he will bring an open mind to the decision-making process that we're about to go through in terms of the statement of proposal item.
I believe that the council policy or rules in the state that the member should consult the chief executive, obviously, or as representative, I would imagine. So can that be confirmed that there has been consultation and that he's received advice? I mean, I do understand it's up to the member to decide ultimately, but they should seek advice on that. It's just very unusual to have a representative of someone sitting around the table speak for them. I know I've been in that position in the past and I've withdrawn from the meeting. So can you tell, was that advice or?
I understand that the member has had discussions with the democracy manager and the chief executive on this particular issue.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McPherson. So over to you. You've had 3 minutes.
Thank you. The Councillor King, I don't wish to read that through, but I'll just perhaps focus on what I consider the key issue. Having reflected on this matter since writing that letter, it's my submission the real purpose of this is to enable the fire service to recover its costs when attending fires which are inconvenience and which are not a threat to persons or property. Giving the fire service a financial incentive to intervene when there is no threat to persons or properties is an incentive which has the potential to introduce corruption into the system. The core part of the rule refers to Section 187 of the Local Government Act. That enables the council to recover its costs. In this sort of situation, the cost that is being recovered is the cost to the fire service. The cost of the fire service, it would appear, would initially be met by the council, and therefore the council would be required to cover that cost, to recover that cost from the person who has caused the fire. Therefore, the council takes a credit risk, and is that a risk that the council is prepared to take? And is that the core function of a council? Just touching upon the issue of the corruption risk, if the fire service is called to a fire and there is a financial incentive to say that there is a fire, that the fire is a risk to persons and property, when it is not, then the decision may be weighted towards saying that there is a fire that's a risk to persons or property. This compromises the fire service. They do not bring an independent eye to the situation. If the council lays charges and seeks recovery of the costs, it will be difficult for the council to rely upon the fire service's evidence as to whether or not there was a fire risk at the time, because the fire service itself is compromised because it has a financial interest in actually determining. So while individual firemen, they're heroes in our society, as I say in our letter, the system that is being proposed here does introduce a corruption risk, in my submission. So part of my concern, as I say in my letter, is that the mischief, the problem that the bylaw is designed to deal with should be properly articulated. In my submission, it's not properly articulated. To me, in my submission, the reference to nuisance fires, health, is simply window dressing around which to wrap the ability of the fire service through the council to recover its costs. There's also a question which I refer to in my letter, which is whether or not this council has the power to extend the powers of the fire service, and that I don't have the answer to that, but this bylaw seems to suggest that the council is allowing the fire service the right to enter property when there is a fire which is not a risk to persons or property. If that really ought to be a matter for central government rather than local government. There are enforcement issues in my submission. I've already touched upon the enforcement issue about the fire service itself being compromised, but also, for example, what is a traditional cooking fire? A person standing around a fire can say that's a traditional cooking fire, and it would be very difficult for the council to prove otherwise in a prosecution. And the onus on the council, of course, is to prove the offence beyond a reasonable doubt.
So, thank you very much. Thank you for your submission. So that is your 3 minutes, and as I said, I think at best we keep any questions till we actually get to the item, which is straight after the minutes, if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we're moving to item 5, the open minutes of the 3rd of September 2014 Strategy and Policy Committee. Obviously take these as read. Any issues arising from those minutes? I can confirm that they are a true and accurate record. Councillor McPherson? Oh, move, thank you. Moved by Councillor McPherson, seconded by Councillor Young. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's carried. Thank you. Right, we move on to page 21, item 6, the proposed open-air burning bylaw statement of proposal. So welcome to staff, come down the front. We've got Liz and Peter. And I'm just going to go, we'll take the report as read. Are we on?
Oh, yeah, thank you for the chair. So, councillors, I thought I'd just respond to the matter that we've heard through the public forum before we ask staff to present to the report. So, Obviously, we have received a legal submission through the public forum process. Somewhat unusual in this process, but in response to that, we have obtained overnight some legal advice from the City Solicitor, and you'll appreciate that this has been done in a relatively short period of time, but it has been very comprehensive advice nonetheless. And in summary, there are two main areas in the Stace Hammond letter. First of all, there is a criticism or critique of the form of the bylaw itself and the content of the bylaw. And the second theme of the letter seems to be a critique or criticism of the report and the statement of proposal that's going out to the public for consultation. I guess the overall observation would be that we would normally expect a letter such as this to be received at the next stage of the process, that is, in the public submission process. This is exactly the type of information we would expect and encourage to receive from the public. Somewhat unusual to receive at this time of the process. In terms of the critique of the bylaw itself, our legal...
Sorry, just the fact that it's unusual, what is that, so what?
It's just unusual. It's not common for us to have, at this last minute, this type of approach come forward in terms of the form of setting bylaws or policy.
But it's,
we would normally expect this through the next
It's acceptable process, and just because it doesn't happen very often doesn't weaken or strengthen the argument, does it?
It's an unusual step in the process, but nonetheless, it's a process that we work through. So it just means that, Councillor, we are seeking information under urgency at the last minute to provide the appropriate advice to Council.
Okay, just the word unusual can be pejorative sometimes, and I don't think we need to taint the evidence that's been given.
It's certainly not something that we see in a common situation.
I think
So what? Okay, right.
carry on.
So in terms of the criticism of the bylaw itself, the legal advice is very clear that the bylaw is not ultra vires, in other words, is in accordance with law, particularly in the areas that have been identified of nuisance, mischief, the Bill of Rights, and what's commonly referred to as the loophole. Our legal advice is very clear. There is no legal risk in terms of the bylaw as drafted and as presented. However, the matters that have been raised are legitimate matters that the submitter wishes to raise, but they don't present an obstacle for Council to proceed to the next stage, that is to proceed to the formal consultation process with the bylaw. They are also one perspective only, and there will be other submitters if we go to the statement of proposal and for public consultation who may have other alternative perspectives who wish to also have their views heard, and that's exactly the type of feedback that we would want to encourage at that next stage, and then Council would make a balanced decision based on all of that information. But the key point to note is that our city solicitors do not accept the points raised in the letter and that the bylaw is ultra vires as presented. The second theme that has been raised in the letter is the quality of the report, Council report, and the statement of proposal. And we would accept that feedback is valid, that Council could choose to do more work and enhance the statement of proposal. But again, our advice is that our statement of proposal and report is legal and has been it meets the requirements for public consultation. But if it was desire of Council to reflect some of that feedback and to add more into the statement of proposal, we could do so, but we would not be able to do that, obviously, in the meeting right here today. We would have to go away and do that work and bring that back to the Council meeting. There is one element that has been raised in the letter, and that is around the definition of outdoor fire, and we could, or outdoor fire for cooking, we could amend that wording in the definition today, if that was the desire of Council, and then proceed ahead to the public consultation phase. So there are two choices there. In fact, there are three choices. You could leave the bylaw unchanged and the statement of proposal unchanged. You could amend one of the definitions, or you could also amend the definition and amend the statement of proposal, but we would need to bring that document back to the Council meeting at the end of the month at the earliest stage for the next consultation. So, Madam Chair, that's...
Great, thank you. So questions, Councillor Mallett?
Just a question, thanks Blair, thank you Angela. Your comment about the definition, that's in the Stace Hammond letter 7.3, I assume. All a person needs to say is that the fire they have prepared is for a traditional cooking fire and the Council
That's
fire
correct.
service, okay, so that's where
So we have a...
that definition's not, it's been pointed out that that definition is very easy to slip into.
We have an alternative or slightly reworded definition
Okay.
which we could, if the move of the council was to just correct that, we could do so today, add that resolution to those in the report and proceed ahead. If the desire of the meeting was to do more than that, to change the word in the statement of proposal, to address some of the other helpful suggestions, we would have to go away and bring that back to the council meeting. But we're not required.
What is the suggested change?
The suggested change, so that's on, I'll just get the right...
Oh, it's in the report, is it?
So we're looking at page 37 of the agenda, and it's the, on page 37, it's the definition traditional cooking fire. So I'll let everyone just find that. So it currently reads, means a hangi, umu or similar underground outdoor fire for the preparation of food using traditional cooking methods. We would propose a very small change to be any hangi, umu or similar outdoor fire for the sole purpose of food preparation using traditional cooking methods. So this is wording which has been suggested by our solicitors, and it just takes away that notion of underground.
Okay, any other questions?
I
Your
just have some
Worship?
questions on the definitions section of the bylaw. Where did the definition of nuisance come from? Are these definitions that have been worked up based on case law or legal definition?
No, we've sort of gone through an iterative process in coming up with this definition, just based on our experience and what we see out there,
Right.
and also trying to capture the term unreasonable in there to make it clear that we would only be applying the bylaw, or at least the enforcement side of it, where the inconvenience or annoyance or harmful effects to any person is unreasonable in the context of living in an urban environment. And I would liken that to our noise control service, where we do exactly the same thing. You live in an urban environment, you do expect to have to put up with some level of noise, but there is a point when that noise becomes unreasonable. And so that's what we're trying to capture.
Yeah, and that's sort of a balancing act assessment based on experience and the context in which the event is occurring.
That's right, the circumstances surrounding the case. We also train our officers in making those judgments.
Right. Okay. I guess then the question I've got is, has there been a legally determined definition that is applied when there is a challenge? Has there been a case that has determined that? Because I know in other bylaws we've looked at, there is case law that's helped define these things.
We understand, in fact I know that there has been a case law involving Mr Parr Lane and the Waipa District Council, which is certainly a recent case.
In relation to nuisance when it comes to fires.
In relation
to himself.
Oh, right.
He is the definition of nuisance, isn't he?
it was in relation to their fire ban bylaw, so it was specifically in
Right,
relation to
and
this.
that case determined a definition of nuisance in the context of a bylaw like this? About fire.
It was quite a comprehensive case on a range of matters. I can't speak as to specifics, but it's certainly our city solicitors have utilised that as one of their points of reference in terms of
To
their
give
advice.
assistance to, in this definition?
Yep.
Okay. Traditional cooking fire, has that been defined anywhere in law? I mean, the reason, Chair, that I'm raising these questions is, of course, if there's a legally determined definition, it does assist us because, it's the law kind of definition, as opposed to us developing up one.
That particular definition was on the advice of the city solicitors overnight, based on their knowledge, including that of the Waipa situation.
Right. Okay, I don't have any other questions, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth?
It's just in relation to your comparison with the noise levels and nuisance levels, etc. Noise. It was my understanding that it's not a subjective thing, that it's not a judgment.
Margaret, your microphone might not be on.
Is it on now?
Yeah.
That responding to noise nuisance isn't subjective, that it's measured in some way, and that if it's over a certain threshold, then
In the Resource Management Act, there is what's called excessive noise, and that's where noise is deemed to be or unreasonably interfere with the peace, comfort and convenience of any person. And that's mainly, that noise control service is mainly aimed at controlling noise from residential sources like stereos, etc. And it's impracticable to, and not required by law, to measure that noise using a sound level meter. It is a subjective assessment made by people, because only they can determine whether that noise unreasonably interferes with the peace, comfort, convenience of any person. Sound level meter does not do that. We use sound level meters for noise of a more systematic nature, like from industrial sources, and compare those levels with the levels that are in the district plan. So that's where we do those objective noise measurements.
okay, so if my neighbour's stereo is too loud, I ring up, somebody comes in and listens for themselves and they decide.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, right, thank you.
Depending on what's playing, I suppose. Too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
True,
exactly.
true. Councillor
Lower
McPherson.
level for rap, I guess.
Councillor McPherson.
I'm glad we're spending so much time and money on such an earth-shatteringly important issue. There's nothing else that's important than Hamilton City Council's working scheme as this. Thanks. But I had a question about the traditional cooking fire, the latest definition, which I definitely think is improved, because with the word underground there before, and I'm going to ask the General Manager about this, it excluded some of the traditional cooking methods that my family have used for at least half a century, like a barbecue. And I'm being serious there. I mean, I think it's sort of being a bit, seems to be a bit PC here, the way it's being described. Rather than using the word traditional, shouldn't you just have a definition of a fire used that's don't call it traditional, just call it a cooking fire that's used solely for the purpose of cooking. If you use the word traditional, then you get all sorts of arguments about whether it's depends on the colour of someone's skin as to whether it can be traditional. What's traditional in my family might not be in someone else's. But if it's solely for the purpose of cooking, that's more objective, surely. So I'm asking for a...
Do you have a comment on that?
Look, I'm going to, I mean, obviously this is on the advice of our solicitors responding to the feedback received overnight. I think on this particular clause, you could certainly remove the words using traditional cooking methods and stop it at food preparation. I suspect that this particular clause will be the subject of further submissions through the next stage of the process, and we may well need to revisit this because it obviously is an area of focus.
Sounds like it could keep several lawyers employed for quite a while. Thanks.
Any further questions? Oh, Councillor King?
Why does the fire ban apply to outdoor fireplaces and not to barbecues, braziers, etc.?
Because they're traditional cooking.
That decision was made based on the advice we had from the fire service in terms of risk.
Why exclude these types of fires and not ban them during a fire ban?
Again, that was based on the advice we got from the fire service due to their opinion on risk.
Is this because a glass of wine in front of a brazier on a summer's evening is something that we ought to enjoy?
I don't think staff can ask. I mean, she might not drink wine.
So where I'm heading is what's the difference between a fire in a brazier or a small open fire and a person having a beer and some music? It seems like a bit of a Waikato draft versus Chardonnay argument here.
Yeah, I think that's for the political heads around the table to decide on that one, not on staff. Sorry, Councillor King, what else have you?
Madam Chair,
Further
seeing as the
questions?
fire service representative is here, could they possibly speak to that? Point then on.
Peter, you happy to step up to the table? Sure. It's Peter Hallett, who's been in front of us before.
Thank you. I think some of those questions have been answered in part previously about the the fire and the nature of the fire. You know, in my experience, the 35 years in the fire service, I don't see people standing around cooking food or sitting around a brazier where they're burning plastics, carcinogens, toxins, and that type of release. I do see people who do enjoy a nice little controlled fire, and they're certainly not the target of what the fire service are chasing here. We're attempting to put some management structures around the control of the more nuisance type fires. You know, like I personally don't have too many issues and have never stopped somebody having a barbecue or having a hangi or having an umu, because they are what they are. They're normally controlled, they're normally small, they're not burning rubbish for the sake of burning rubbish.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah. So what's your response to the proposition that the council is being used to recover the cost of the fire service for attending fires which do not threaten life and property? Is this a proper council function?
Yeah, again, Councillor King, that's not for the fire service to determine, that's for us to determine whether
Well, maybe
something
this
is a
question
function.
needs to be to the writer of the report or to the GM.
Well, I think, again, that's covered in my overall comments around the advice that we've received tonight in our position. We reject that criticism.
That the council won't be carrying more costs because of this?
No, we don't.
We're empowering the fire brigade to go in and put out nuisance fires. Somebody's going to have to pay for that.
Sorry, what's the question? I'm unclear. Are you asking who? I mean, the fire service pay for the cost of doing the call-outs,
No,
attending call-outs. Sorry, can you clarify your question?
at the moment, the fire service can't charge somebody for putting out a nuisance fire because it's not within central government's legislative rules. But once this goes through, there will then be a reason that they can charge.
Well, that would be up to them,
would be up-
Councillor King.
It would be up to council because of the bylaw to recover that money and then pass it on to the fire brigade.
The GM, can you assist here?
I'm just...
Yeah, I mean, I think, sorry,
Your
Chair,
Worship.
I think it's a good question. Who ultimately
Who
pays
pays?
for the cost of the fire service to put out the fire or to intervene? Is it a cost borne by the fire service?
Your Worship, yes. The furthest thing, you know, I'm obviously not a legal person, and I can't speak as to the accuracy of or otherwise of any reports that have come and gone before us. I'd have to, you know, get the fire service legal team to look at that for me. But that is the furthest thing from my mind when we sat down to start discussing this, that we would try and use this as a mechanism to recover costs from firefighting. It's just, I don't think it's possible. Well, it certainly would be possible, but I don't think it's plausible. I don't think it's where the fire service wanted to take this. We charge for a very small number of things. We charge for chemical incidents which are outside the true fire service legislation in respect of after 1 hour we can charge. We don't charge for house fires, we don't charge for rubbish fires, hangi fires in any way, shape or form at the moment. There's no intention to do so, and perhaps the penalty sort of clause that was in there is a backstop for recidivist offenders who may need some discouragement from continuing with practices which aren't safe or healthy for the public of Hamilton.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I'm trying to capture Councillor King's concern on this one. Because we are stepping into this business, is there any indication that there will be any additional costs at any time that will fall onto council? Has that happened in other TLAs who have adopted this type of bylaw that you know of? Peter?
I don't know about other TLAs, but we are already responding to complaints about smoky fires, but we're unable to, you know, if there's enforcement that was required, we're unable to do anything. So the cost is already being borne by us.
Right.
The bylaw just provides that guidance and ultimately means of enforcement if required at the end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Tooman.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we've sort of lost our way on this a little bit. Let's look at what this whole thing's all about. The fire service came to this council requesting that...
Sorry, Councillor Tooman, we're just still doing questions.
Oh,
I'll put you first on the list for debate if you
Okay.
like.
one question is then, what the difference...
He's learning, isn't he?
the
He's been here a
difference
year
between
now.
what we've been talking about here is a nuisance fire, and we seem to get hung up a little bit on the definition of the word nuisance. Could we change that to an annoying fire? There's enough case law on annoyance to some person, so would that make any difference?
Question? Liz?
Maybe to the general manager or to Liz?
Someone?
I think that's all.
Liz?
The description of nuisance fires is used in the majority of open air burning bylaws. So, and as has been discussed, it has been tested with the court case between Parlane and Waipa. It's also this particular description, although it has been looked at in terms of actually meeting the needs of the city, it is based on the Health Act description of nuisance, or a section of the Health Act description of nuisance. So it's reasonably robust.
So our advice is to not move away from the use of that term.
Councillor Mallett, question? Been asked and answered. Councillor King?
Yeah, this is probably for the writer of the report or for the GM. Where do you consider the role of councillors? Where's the line between councillors' responsibilities and central government's responsibilities? At the moment, this is a central government responsibility through the fire brigade, and we're taking it on. So I'm just trying to work out why we're doing that.
I think, to the point made earlier, the fire service have come to council and asked for our assistance because there is a mechanism that they require in the form of a bylaw, which we have seen the majority of other councils in New Zealand also provide the fire service to give them the mechanism to deal with these types of nuisance fires.
Okay, Councillor Mallett, question?
Lee, you didn't really answer Andrew's question then. He said, if that's the case, then shouldn't the central government do something about it?
This already is our responsibility, as Peter already alluded to. We already deal with nuisance caused by fires, and our responsibility in terms of helping our community manage nuisance and our ability to manage nuisance to our community is set out under the Local Government Act.
Right, if there are any further questions, we'll go to, I'm just, before we go to debate, and I've got Councillor Tooman first, I'm going to pop something up on the board, which is on page 22, and I'm going to move, if I have a seconder, which there is just capturing the change.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Change to incorporate the definition for cooking fire, and I just wonder if we can't take Councillor McPherson's suggestion and take traditional out there. I don't think staff had too much of a problem with that at this point. Would that be, Councillor Wilson, would you be happy if we just took the word traditional out of there, so that the definition would be of cooking fire? Was that right, General Manager?
No, I think it would stop after word preparation. I'm just looking to Liz here.
Food preparation.
Using traditional cooking methods. I think that's the.
No, there's two places where
Yeah.
it's mentioned, Leah. There's that one above and the one you're talking about.
Well, that's.
I suppose it's all
Sorry,
linked in, isn't it, to the documents
Angela,
in
what
front.
page are we on here?
Well, we're on 21, where the staff recommendation is. I was just trying to capture the mood of the meeting.
The actual definition is referred to as traditional cooking fire. That's the term that we're defining. So the term being defined as traditional cooking fire, that's on page 37 of the document. And the definition that sits beside that is the any hangi, umu or some outdoor fire. And if you stopped, I'm just testing with Liz here, if we remove the word using traditional cooking methods.
We could do that.
But that would also mean that you would change the document itself, not just the recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah, the
Oh,
document.
yes.
This is to change the bylaw.
The document would change as well. It would probably be helpful to highlight that wherever we talk about traditional cooking fires, we also talk about barbecues as well. So I don't know whether you were referring to barbecues as a traditional, be seen as a traditional method, but they are also described in the bylaw and they are also mentioned all the way through.
What about woks?
Is it something that can be changed more easily to outdoor cooking fire?
Yes, we can change it.
No, I don't think you want to change that definition there. You don't want to change that word.
Not the top. If you want to change the title, because then you'd be changing the words throughout the entire bylaw, so we'd have to go through the bylaw and pull
All right,
the
look,
words throughout
I
the
think
bylaw.
it's in a difficult basket. We are going through the submission process and we are going to hear submissions from the public. So,
My preference would be to leave it as we're
yeah,
suggesting
so
here.
I tried,
But-
Councillor McPherson,
Well, then
but
I'll
we
put
can...
in an amendment because you're just buying yourself huge arguments about the word traditional unnecessarily. Whose tradition?
Yeah.
Can I just ask what your,
Well, I think I understand the point you're making. I think if you stop the
Yeah.
words food preparation and that's highlighted like bullet point line, that if you remove those last 4 words, that if that's what goes into the actual bylaw, then isn't that
I'm okay with that.
So the GM, you're okay with taking out using
I'm just
traditional
looking
cooking
at
methods?
staff here and, yep.
That everyone's nodding. Nodding is always good. So democracy manager, can you remove that?
Does that cover woks?
And the second bullet point with a definition of traditional cooking fire. Does that then become with a definition of cooking fire to be updated to?
Sorry?
Or Councillor McPherson, is your issue just with the fact that we've linked hangi, umu, etc. with the word traditional? You want traditional out of the document?
out of the document? I understand why it's in the resolution, yes.
Okay, is that what we're doing here?
I think that's
The bylaw refers to traditional cooking fire in a few places, and these words here are just then putting the definition around what that means.
they define.
It defines traditional cooking fire, so I think we should leave traditional cooking fire as the words, but the definition is what you've addressed.
Yep. Okay, good. Councillor Wilson as a second, are you happy with that?
Oh, I just have a question around point 4.
Sure.
I just want to know why staff have recommended that we don't have a hearings process, and I can sort of see it down here in black and white, but we do have a number of other proposals that will go through potentially a hearings process, and they haven't been recommended that they're not heard.
Yep. Leah? The change.
I'll just, so,
So we have worked through with the change in the Local Government Act about how we need to engage with the community on bylaws. We no longer have to go through the the SCP, which is a special consultative procedure, which sets out exactly what you have to do. And so we've discussed with them what's the most helpful way to engage with the general public on bylaws that don't require an SCP. And what we've come up with is giving them 4 weeks to engage with us, having drop-in sessions, and that the general public would find that more useful than just coming and presenting to councillors. So that's what we've presented.
So on page 23, sorry Liz, thank you. On page 23 there are 3 options there. Staff are recommending the second option, which is still a 4-week submission period but no hearings. Is there a view
I understand all that, but I still don't get a sense of why you're recommending that we don't need to have a hearing for this. Sure, we can, but the same could be said for other potential bylaw processes we're going through, and this is the first, or one of the first times it's.
So this is the first time this has come up, and this is because there isn't any set process by law now as to how we need to engage with the public over certain bylaws. It's now up to council to decide what the most appropriate way will be. So the reason we are proposing that is after discussions with the comms team and with our lawyers, we believe that will be a robust process and will give you guys enough information to go forward. If council feel that they would prefer to have hearings as well, then we can go with another option.
Okay.
Yeah, could I ask the GM to circulate the advice that he got from the city solicitor that he referred to earlier?
I'm happy to send that advice. It is obviously abbreviated, as you'll appreciate, with the time frame.
Thank you. Right, so this has been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Wilson. So open to debate. Councillor Tooman, you're first up.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what we've got to do is go back to the basics on this whole thing. And if my memory serves me correctly, the New Zealand Fire Service came along here and presented to this council requesting assistance to implement a fire ban in case of extended drought, and also the ability to extinguish what is termed nuisance fires. We are dealing here with a professional organisation within the city who has served this city extremely well over the years. And I know in a previous life I was always very happy to see these guys arrive to give them much assistance as they possibly could. I don't see that we're actually going to have a bunch of cowboys arrive on the front steps of somebody's residence and try and put out a fire without actually discussing it with somebody. And I think what we have to do in this case, of course, is to get back to the basics. And what's this all about? As far as I'm concerned, this is really about community safety. And that's really what we're here for, as far as I'm concerned.
Any further debate? Councillor King?
Enabling to extend the powers of the fire service is not a matter for council, it is a matter for central government. Merely because other councils have introduced bylaws does not mean that Hamilton City Council ought to reduce it. It's akin to saying, my friends jumped off a bridge, so you do the same. There has to be an inadequacy in the way things are now, which affects ratepayers. So ratepayers are taking on the fire service's burden financially. The loophole with respect to traditional cooking fires demonstrates the bylaw has not been properly thought through. If a traditional cooking fire is above the ground, which it would have to be, including a hangi, would that mean we could cook meat and spit, meat on a spit over an open fire? The bylaw has practical enforcement problems. It creates work for the council, which is done by the fire service and perhaps the police. They are best placed to assess a fire in its street, not a council worker. The fire service are the experts in assessing fire risk, and this is where the decision maker ought to be. This is not an inconvenience to their job. Why should the ratepayer fund another layer of costs on society? It appears that the local government is being lobbied by the fire service to enable it to recover the costs on its behalf. Therefore, council is being asked as a collection agency, is being used as a collection agency for the fire service. In other words, the fire service could turn around and charge under this bylaw if they chose to. Is this a proper function of council? Is this a core function of council? Is the council acting in the best interest of the ratepayers when undertaking this function? Thank you.
Councillor McPherson.
I support Councillor Tooman's points. I have had some sympathy with one of Councillor King's points, and I would have had even more sympathy had he been the one raising it rather than a paid lawyer at the start, because we've two bites in the cherry, and that's the one we've actually changed to, which you've continued with your prepared speech, Andrew, but it's to remove some of the strange interpretations that might come with the word traditional cooking methods, or just strange outcomes. It's good that councillors, that elected members, do make changes to propositions that are put to us by staff. It doesn't mean to say that staff haven't properly thought them through, but they cannot think of everything, and that's one of the reasons we're elected here, is to bring the lay touch, if you like, to professional opinions that are given to us. And we've done that in one or two areas, not a problem. As far as whether it's council's job or not, in the ideal world, and I've yet to find it, but if there was an ideal world, we wouldn't have any bylaws because central government would be handling its jobs and we'd be handling our jobs. But we have an absolute ton of bylaws here, a lot of them created, most of them created because central government has actually devolved responsibility to us. Traffic bylaws, for one. There's thousands of them and they're far more restrictive than this particular one, I suggest. I think it is stretching things far too far to say it's a cost recovery method for the fire service. I think not just what Peter Hallett said to us before, but it's pretty obvious that there's no system set up for any sort of appreciable cost recovery, and I've suggested it would be far more useful, just in the way that Peter described us, for recidivist fire creators, nuisance fire creators. That might be where it is a backstop. So I wasn't convinced when I first heard. I didn't see the need, but the actual debate and the unjust criticisms of it have actually convinced me that it is a good idea to have it there as a backstop, given that we are getting devolved all sorts of things by central government, and this is yet another one.
Thank you. Councillor Mallett.
Not so much on the substance of the issue, but I don't think it is any detriment to an argument that it is presented by a paid lawyer. I don't think that at all weakens an argument. In fact, that a councillor is prepared to put his own dough on the line to try and get an alternative legal opinion doesn't undermine an argument whatsoever.
Thank you. Councillor Forsyth.
Look, I'd like to signal an amendment, and if you could guide me as to when I can put that forward.
Just committee secretary, we are in the debate.
Madam Chair, and Councillor Forsyth has not spoken
So that's
to the
okay.
motion, so it's in order.
So do you want to signal what your amendment is now, and we'll deal with that?
Okay, well, that it would be to replace point 4 with an option, I haven't got the wording for it, but option 2 at point 33, where a smaller subcommittee of the Strategy and Policy Committee is delegated to hear submitters, and the remaining 2 bullet points would apply as well.
So option 2, page 33.
Yes.
Okay.
No, sorry, page 23.
Sorry,
Point
page
33.
23. Option 2, point 33.
Yes.
Subcommittee.
So it would be to replace point 4,
Yes.
option 2 with the second
Okay,
option
so that's
2.
an amendment on the table. Does Councillor Forsyth have a seconder? Sure.
Margaret, I thought that's what this says.
Sorry, I thought option 2 up there said hearings no.
So I think through the chair, what Councillor Forsyth is asking for is option 2 with hearings. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Sorry,
So-
option 2.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And then the hearings, we have a choice in, if you're proposing hearings, to either be all of Strategy and Policy Committee
Yes.
or a hearing subcommittee. So I think you,
So
so I think you're seeking a
Through the chair,
hearing
can I ask a
subcommittee.
question?
Yes, absolutely.
When I saw that, option 2, my eyes, I have to say, went straight to 33.
Okay.
It didn't, and I apologise, dwell on 28. But 28 appears in contradiction. Is that, have I got that, or have I got that wrong?
Look, I think the report could be clearer.
Well, I think with respect, it needs to be massively clearer, because option 2 under 28 is a total contradiction of option 2 under point 33.
So I think
Can,
I can help clarify.
sorry, you clarify, and then I think I might have a way forward.
So I publicly thank
Yeah.
Councillor Forsyth.
So at the present time, the staff recommendation is option 2 of paragraph 28, which is a full engagement public consultation process without a hearings process. Councillor Forsyth is suggesting as an amendment to add to that a hearings component with a subcommittee to hear those submissions.
Yes.
Look, I'm happy to put that in. If that's the will of the committee, and I'm sensing that it is, Councillor Forsyth, look, I'm happy to change it to a subcommittee if Councillor Wilson, the seconder, is happy with that.
Madam
Chair, I'm happy to follow the guidance.
He's happy to follow my guidance. Excellent. So, Councillor Forsyth, if you withdraw that, we can include it in the motion. With a subcommittee, and now this is a recommendation to council, isn't it, Democracy Manager? So we can organise who wants to sit on that hearing subcommittee at that time when I recommend these to the next council meeting. Councillor Gallagher?
Look, obviously, apart from the small criticism, the report is a good report and it's a good summary, and I think that this process that hopefully we're now going to engage on is that obviously the New Zealand Fire Service can actually have some time, obviously, to respond to this correspondence, which from my perspective as an elected member has just been tabled as of now. So obviously they're able to digest this. So there's two issues. One is the principle of a bylaw, but it's obviously having proper time to soberly and calmly and with time consider some alternative legal advice that we've actually received. So I think this process assists us all. Having said that, I'm very much supportive of Leo Tooman. I do think we need to get on with this, but if there is some legal angle that we need to further look at, that is noted.
Thank you, Councillor. If there are no other speakers to the motion, I will put that motion. All those in favour? Any against? Councillor King is against, and Councillor Mallett. Thank you very much. Thank you to staff. Right, we're turning to page 40, item 7, Library Censorship Policy Review. And
I'll move.
Thank you. Moved by Her Worship.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Wilson.
Just hold on.
Take the report as read if there are any questions.
40.
Page
just
40,
turn to the page.
Councillor.
I just want to
Yes.
turn to the page. And
Yes,
it's really
you can
good.
turn to
We
the page.
don't want a Polish parliament. Thank you very much.
A what? Poland?
You know, the rubber stamp
No,
parliament.
no.
Okay.
no.
The
Right,
polls have
thank you.
evolved.
Right, now, good. Thank you. On to it.
Right, questions. Councillor Mallett?
Just in the executive summary, point 8, the review has identified that the censorship policy is largely fit. Now, whenever you put a qualifier in like that, largely fit for purpose, it means it's not quite fit for purpose. Where does it fall down? Because if it was totally fit for purpose, you wouldn't have largely fit for, or almost fit for purpose, or just about. So where is the... It's nearly there, yeah.
So through the chair, we would change the formatting of the policy because it is the old style, and we would transition it to a management policy under this recommendation, but the content of it is fit for purpose.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
That's been moved by Her Worship, seconded by, was it Councillor Wilson, I think, wasn't it? Yes. Yes. No further questions or debate. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Thank you. That's it. You're done. You can stay if you like. Right, page 44, item 8, the traffic bylaw hearing. Now, this is another step in our process. Have we got, Aaron, you're still there. And this is just simply a decision on, similar actually to what Councillor Forsyth has raised, whether we have a delegate to a subcommittee or the entire committee here. And I do have some names to put up on the board. Councillor Mallett, question?
Can I just ask that point C of the recommendation, this is just one of those finicky little things, says that the subcommittee reports a summary of the oral submissions and evidence presented to the proposed Hamilton Traffic Bylaw 2014 to the February 2000.
Yes, we can add that. You can add that into my motion. Yes, I'll allow you to do that.
Thanks, mate.
I have also, just for complete clarification, added D, just up on the board there, elected members, that just clarifies that the hearing subcommittee will be disestablished after these hearings have been in place and names were canvassed, and I'm proposing that Councillor Tooman chair that hearing subcommittee with Councillors Forsyth, Gallagher, Green and Young appointed to that subcommittee as well. So that's what I'm moving.
I'll second.
Seconded by Her Worship. Any debate on that? No? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thanks, Aaron. Right, page 46, item 9, Embassy Park Revitalisation Update, and we have Sandy Turner in the audience. Are you going to come down, and Antanas? You going to? Go on, come down. We like to see pretty faces. Yours too, Antanas. You can take the report as read, Andy, and this is, Your Worship and Councillors, of course, an update on the project that the Embassy Park Trust is doing. So I guess I'm going to go to Sandy or Antanas first. Is there anything you quickly would like to say about the project? The hospital paths going backwards and forwards there?
We're just really excited that stage 1 has started, that we're completely on track to get it completed in time for the 22nd of November, and yeah, we're really happy with progress, so everything's progressing satisfactory.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Are there any further questions?
Just like to make a comment if I could, Chair.
Your Worship, yes.
I wanted to thank the Trust for all the work they've been doing, because I know they've been working very hard, giving their time freely to the city, and that they've been very successful in gaining some good support and money for funding for the project. So thanks very much for that.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. Right, if there are no further debate, then I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour?
Right.
Any against? That's carried. Thank you, short and sweet. Right, action list, page 48.
Why is this at the end of it?
Thank you, Councillor Mallet. It's a very good question. Why is it at the end? What I decided to do through my, and Councillor Wilson will, I'm sure, agree with me since he's in a very agreeing mode, through my Institute of Directors course, put the big meaty decisions that the committee is also recommending to Council up front of the agenda, not the boring stuff like the Chair's report and the action list, for good governance.
So you're playing with
is
our
the
minds,
answer.
eh?
Yes, I am playing with your mind.
Playing with our minds.
Would you concur with that, Councillor Wilson?
As I've done the same course, I would, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson.
I have a question.
It's an A+, Your Worship.
I have a question, and it's in relation to page 51, update on the Citygate Plaza project. Can someone help me with that? What's actually happening? I don't see anything yet.
Aaron.
Aaron?
So through the chair, we have been working with McConnell and Wintec, this regarding payments.
Sorry, Aaron, who was the first name?
McConnell,
McConnell Properties, they were the developer of the property.
Aye.
and Wintec, this regarding money arrangements, financials, and so the project will be ready to commence.
So I just need a bit more clarification, because this was an April matter. So when, I guess a practical question, when are we going to see art on the ground?
Through the chair, I would need to discuss that with Wintec in terms of the timing of any artwork, because they would be responsible for it. So I'm not sure of timing of this.
Could I just have a note for the next meeting? Can we have a more comprehensive update on what's happening? Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Mallet, did I see your hand up?
Yeah, you did. Just on page 49, there's a couple of events, sponsorship subcommittee, and business and investment subcommittee.
Yes.
They both refer to future dates. Is that deliberate? As things generally don't get done unless there's a date where you need some sort of timetable.
So I can probably answer those ones. Yes, no, you're absolutely correct, but there are no dates on that, and the GMs haven't given us any dates, and I think it's just purely due to workload.
So should...
Well, we can't. I don't think we can arbitrarily just decide a date. I think the one thing that we've noticed, particularly in this committee this year, is the date. We're not hitting the dates, and I think it's workload. You know, if you want to pull a date out of the year, we can add it on there. But my strong advice would be that it's probably just going to come back and fail that date. I can pick it up offline if you like.
Should it
with
be on
those
the
both
list?
of those GMs. It is on the S&P work program, and I am constantly in communications with the GMs on these things that, you know, are falling behind. If that's enough for you, then we can leave it. I'm happy to update you.
Okay.
Councillor Pascoe?
Yeah, it would be useful to have
Yeah,
a date,
agree.
particularly on the Municipal Endowment Fund, because we are going through a process of realising on a number of assets which are in that fund, and currently under those rules we are quite limited with what we can do with those particular funds. So I'd support Councillor Mallett's wish to perhaps try and fit a date, not necessarily now, but before the next meeting, have a date as to when we might get an update on
It's a good point. And
modernising that.
to be fair, all of these actions, all of them had dates, and then they have kept getting pushed out with, you know, it's one thing we know about this job, it's a management of priorities. But take the point, and we'll work on it definitely for the next agenda setting. Councillor Gallagher?
Are you going this page by page? I've got an item on page 57. I think that's the appropriate one.
Yes?
So do you want to do this page by page first?
No, just as people pick up the items, they can just call them out. That's what we've been doing. We don't need to go page by page.
Okay, let me
Do
go
it
to...
by exception.
Look, yeah, item 12, and I just need to, I think, we're having a discussion, I think, after this meeting around the reporting, and I had a good meeting with yourself around reporting of subcommittees to their parent committee, and it's my understanding, just obviously, and it'll probably be picked up in our normal report, that we resolved that we wanted to raise the issue with regard to community policing, and that would be part of a sort of staff report to the parent committee. My understanding is we can pick that up in our normal report. What is not mentioned here, and I bring your attention as chair of that committee, with regard to the sustainability panel, and as everyone's aware, in the last term we resolved to establish a sustainability panel. They have completed their report, and there was a thought that possibly that could come to the community forum to look at, as I understand it, but we resolved at our meeting that it be referred to this meeting in the first instance for discussion by all elected members. However, I'm aware that there is some other processes to go through, and I don't know if Blair wanted to clarify that, but I'm bringing to your attention the fact that the point at which it comes to councillors, it was the view of your community forum subcommittee that it should be all councillors should hear that particular report, and I don't know if Blair's got anything to add to that, so I'm just conveying that here, and I realise in future that it'll be a normal report.
Yes, at the present time, that report is due to be passed to the Leadership Forum, the Sustainability Leadership Forum, for them to receive and consider. Yep. So that action is outstanding at the present time.
Right. So the Sustainable Leadership Forum first, and then it would come to...
for them to rightfully receive and consider the report,
yeah.
And for them to then bring back to council there.
Sure, and I'd be of the personal view, and I think probably workshop, I think it would be of a sufficient moment for all councillors to receive it at that point. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mallett?
Just another one on the dates, page 53, the crematoriums. The last bullet point, draft management plan under development. Draft management plan to be presented to 19 November Strategy and Policy Committee following a council briefing of 20 on October. We've had our briefing for that, haven't we? Didn't we have the briefing the other day?
No, that was a long-term plan discussion, so this is a specific...
That's different than this?
Yes, and that is scheduled for the briefing next week.
Okay. And what's the significance of red versus black?
The red is just showing elected members the change each time they see the action list, and then
So
once you've seen it,
last one.
just transparency.
Just black. Thank you.
Yeah. Right, there being no further questions. Councillor Gallagher?
Just item 13, and I'm just wondering in terms of that issue...
What page, sorry?
Item 30, page 53.
Yeah.
53, Waiwere Drive to Cobham Drive connection. I'm not talking about the intersection.
Yeah.
I'm just immediately picking up the future-proofing 4 laning and the relevance, as I understand it, with the Runanga in terms of that. I don't know if there's any update around the parking stuff there and if there's anything on that. So, and I'm
Deputy
sorry,
Mayor?
I haven't-
I've not heard there are any
Yeah,
ongoing
that's good.
problems.
So it's all working? Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor. Thank you, councillor. Right, there being no further questions, I'll move that the action list be received, seconded by councillor Green. Any debate? All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Right, thank you. Chair's report. Lots of pretty pictures. Well, thank you, councillor Wilson. Seconded by councillor Green. I just wanted to say, look, if you have other schools, if you're, in your networks, seriously, that it was a fantastic morning that the Civil Defence Department here, along with Councillor Tooman, gave the kids from Whitiora School, and it was really worth doing. We don't have enough schools visit us. So, yeah, highly recommend that to your network.
Acknowledging the work that you did in the previous term of council and this school, which of course is close to Councillor Cheston and my heart,
Yes, old boys.
have regular visits, and you've arranged that.
Yeah.
But I wonder to Blair, do we have any strategy? Just remind us, we do have a strategy around proactively as an organisation targeting schools, and I'm sure we do, but it just seems to me, I keep hearing Whitiora visiting, but I'm not sure, and we do work out and talk to other schools, but I'm not sure if we have any sort of place where this absolutely sits in terms of, like we have the parliamentary education program, lots of visits, etc., and where we fit, because this is absolutely excellent example of civics education for that particular.
Yeah, good point, Councillor Gallagher. The Mayor would like to
Yes, so
offer
we
some help.
do have a semblance of a plan on that, Councillor Gallagher, because it's a very important part of democracy. So perhaps it's an item that you might want to add sort of on the civic list, and we'll reignite it.
Through
And you're right, Councillor O'Leary has done a great job over the last 3 or 4 years of bringing that on board, and we've had the mock debate.
And we've got another one coming up.
We've got another one coming up, and we've had Rotatuna School.
That's right.
And they do reignite it, because there is a plan and a program, but could I just say it does require considerable support from elected members to make it happen and to provide support when the schools do come. Otherwise it's it's a bit difficult when it's just left to a couple. So
And I think that would be just about an elected member adopting 2 or 3, that kind of thing. But I think just building on what you've done is a very good, a good model, and I agree, and I'll certainly raise that at the Civic Subcommittee.
Can I just also make a comment in relation to your report, Councillor O'Leary, and that is, thank you for highlighting this, and I do want to also add that Councillor Tooman also went out and walked the pavement, not with the dressed up dog, but it would have been quite fun with the dressed up dog. We might have attracted more attention, Councillor Tooman, myself and Blair and the Civil Defence team to hand out the packs, for the Get Ready packs. And I think that went really well too, but I think we would have attracted a lot more attention if we'd taken a dog.
Yeah. He's pretty cute.
He is cute, yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Human or the dog?
The dog. Both.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that's been moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Green. Any debate? No. So all those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Right, last item is a resolution to exclude the public. This is on page 61.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Young.
being proposed.
Thank you. I'll get the GM to answer that. Good,
Aaron
good
can-
question.
So
Oh.
through the chair, we've had the request from Mesh because of report 2 we received in public excluded, and that is because the artist, the referred artist, is identified in the report and enables them to undergo contract negotiations with that artist.
So how does having something in public stop or make it more difficult for contract negotiations? We, for instance, in many other spheres of council business, decide to issue contracts for things, and then staff, management with delegated authority go off and do those negotiations because we don't discuss the details in here, just the fact that there should be a contract for a certain piece of work.
I wonder if we can, if you're happy for Mesh to answer that question.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. Could you stand up, please? Sorry, thank you.
There are a lot of unknowns at the beginning of projects like this, and sometimes the artists and us we've worked with previously have been quite sensitive to unwarranted media attention, especially when we're not sure if the project will actually go ahead or not. So that's the reason why we requested to be excluded from the public, just so there wasn't unwarranted media attention, focused on what may or may not be happening when we're at the very early stages of kicking off the project.
But we're not at the very early stages, are we? Aren't we? Once approval or otherwise is given here, this is the last time that council will debate?
No. No, this is the first stage. This is the initial stage of the process.
So am I then right in believing that the final stages will be in public?
I think we've probably crossed that bridge when we came to it, and how the artists felt about that and how the council felt about it as well. But it would be certainly something that we could, that we would consider at that point.
You see, Madam Chair, we have two different organisations that, plus other people from time to time, but two regular ones that promote public art and ask for permission from us, various permissions. One prefers dealing all in public, one prefers dealing mostly in private. And I think that's sends mixed signals to the public, let alone the council. I find it inconsistent, the process. I'm not blaming council staff for that, but I find it uncomfortable that we're talking about public art in private. I prefer the other organisations, and I wonder whether this is ever discussed, this process issue, the difference is ever discussed with the organisations concerned, and why their artists supposedly don't want things in public and the other group's artists supposedly are happy with them being in public.
I think it's fair to say that staff understand the importance of having as much as possible in a public domain, and that is always our position. And I think the comments you're making are entirely relevant, and we certainly take those forward into any discussions with the parties. And so I think at the next stage we would certainly advocate as much as possible, if not all, should be in public, and we would obviously have a very high test for what wouldn't go into public.
So what test was applied this time? And I'm thinking in this case, I'm certainly not going to mention any names, could not the placing of the work, the fact that it's being looked at, be discussed in public, and then, if necessary, the particular person or any identifier of the particular piece of art, that can be done in private, and that's something we have asked about before.
Yes, I think in reflection we could have looked at it from that perspective.
Well, I'm not going to try and belabor the point and split the report now, but I really would like to see staff erring on the side of keeping things in public, except the little bits that are absolutely necessary in private.
Thank you, Councillor McPherson. I've made a note because you raise a point that has come up for several members around the table in the past. So I'll certainly have discussions with Blair after the meeting about how we can better do that. And I think also because the process comes to council at different points as well, it'd be good to understand which points are critical for those presenting and need to be as you say, confidential, and others like sight and stuff like that. That a lot of that is out in the public anyway in our public art plan and has been all identified. So you raise a really good point. So if you're happy for us to work on that. So that's being moved by Councillor Wilson. Councillor Mallett, question?
Yes, please.
Question? Yep.
It says on page 3 of the report there is no budget allocated on page.
We're not in there.
Councillor Mallett, we're not in
Oh,
confidential
we
yet.
haven't got there yet.
So hold those questions. Thank you. So it has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any against? Councillor McPherson is against. Thank you, that's been passed. Oh, and sorry, my apologies. I'd like to add to that Margie Moore, Kate Ross and Alison Ewing remain. They are part of MESH and the Public Art Panel.